So we got to talk about Hurricane Helene because the rumors online are wild. What's really happening with the recovery efforts, especially in North Carolina? Is FEMA threatening to arrest people? And is the federal government really just giving survivors $750? And what's with Chimney Rock? Hey, I'm Chan, journalist and news anchor. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today on the Coffee Chat. So pour yourself a cup and let's chat. So here's what we know. Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida as a Category 4 hurricane before moving its way up through the southeast coast all the way up to the Carolinas and even Virginia. Some of the hardest hit areas, though, are concentrated in western North Carolina. More than 200 people have died across 6 states. The National Guard has been called in for several of these states, and 1,000 active duty troops have also been called in to help with the recovery efforts. Right now, most officials are estimating that the cost to completely rebuild everything will be in the billions of dollars. So that's what we know right now, but there are a lot of rumors circulating on social media as well. One of the big ones is that FEMA is actually trying to arrest people. Is that true? Well, first things first, FEMA cannot arrest anyone. Let's just make that clear. Only law enforcement entities can do that in the United States. So no, FEMA cannot arrest or detain anyone. Now, yes, people can do a citizen's arrest, but that's not what most people think it actually is. However, there are tons of social media posts alleging that FEMA agents are actually threatening to arrest people who are trying to donate goods to the Hurricane Helene victims. One of these stories comes from a media outlet called Queen City News. In a story that they wrote, they spoke to a couple called the Coffees who was stranded in their home for several days. They had received word from local law enforcement that a helicopter was finally going to be able to come and rescue them and get them pretty much off the side of this cliff where their home formerly was, where they had been living in their car for several days after Hurricane Helene hit, when a helicopter pilot actually landed and volunteered to save them. Now, this man was not with any official entity. He was just really volunteering his time and actually had served as a volunteer firefighter, and so had his son, who was his co-pilot. So the man actually was able to take the woman in his helicopter and get them to a relief area where several of these agencies were. According to the pilot and Mrs. Coffee, once they arrived, the pilot was actually threatened with being arrested if he tried to return back to the mountain to 1, get his son, and to 2, rescue her husband. Also, some of these claims may have stemmed from a post from Elon Musk on X. So in this post, he shared a video where he says that his pilots were trying to land in an area and FEMA agents told him that they could not. Now, it is worth noting again that FEMA doesn't have that kind of power. The FAA is the only one who really regulates airspace. The FAA has since come out and said they were having issues with the air traffic control, and that's why they were limiting some air traffic for a certain period of time, but have since reopened things. Now, Elon Musk was trying to send in people. He was trying to get some of his Starlink satellites up so people could have internet and even power. And it is worth noting that he has been able to provide internet to tons of people out there. But the majority of the people who are in those hardest hit areas still don't have access to food, power, water, you name it. The second rumor that is really circulating on social media is that FEMA is only giving survivors $750 and that they have to pay that money back. So this is kind of a twofold one. The first one is, so FEMA normally gives out grants that do not have to be paid back. Now, they also work with things like the Small Business Administration and other entities that do distribute loans, but that first line of response or disaster response for FEMA are typically grants that you do not have to pay back at all. And they try, according to them, try to get the money to victims rather quickly. So what's with that $750? So that's for a specific program called the Special Needs Assistance Program. It's one of the things that they try to do to immediately respond to a disaster relief effort. I've covered a lot of natural disasters and I've seen them give out that money rather quickly. Typically, that is not all the money that a person receives. However, there is a quite lengthy process in order to get other FEMA funding. And yes, you do have to fill out a lot of applications online, which can be a huge burden when you don't have power and you don't have internet. Now, are there a lot of issues with how the FEMA system is run? 100%. And is everybody out there getting all the help that they need? Absolutely not. But as far as them only giving out $750 to each victim of Hurricane Helene, that's not exactly true. Which actually brings us to our next topic. Is FEMA actually trying to stop people from bringing in supplies? Well, that depends on who you ask. There are a lot of social media posts of people reporting that they tried to donate certain items and were turned away. Now, understand that FEMA is just one entity that comes in to help with emergency management. Their literal name is Federal Emergency Management Assistance. However, there are tons of other nonprofits and just community members that are stepping up to really help out their neighbors in need, which tends to happen in any type of natural disaster. Now, I'm not here to say what's really happening in that area. I am not there on ground zero, but I will say I have definitely seen FEMA in action quite a bit. And every time I've ever covered a major disaster, it is always the community that does more than actual federal entities. Whether or not that's the thing that's supposed to be happening, it just tends to be what happens. And again, there are a lot of people online saying that they have either one, not seen many FEMA people, or two, that they have been turned away from FEMA in trying to donate. And finally, is Chimney Rock really going to be bulldozed all because of a lithium field? So before I get to the answer for that one, take a look at this video. So this is the Chimney Rock area. And as you can see, well, for one, there's not really much left of it to be bulldozed. So several media outlets there have said, and elected officials have said that no, they are not bulldozing that area at all. As a matter of fact, several North Carolina state leaders recently met there at ground zero right at Chimney Rock just recently, talking about ways that they were going to rebuild it. However, there are tons of people talking online about plans to demolish the area, also that the government can then seize that property because of lithium. So for this morning's coffee chat, I have to know, what do you think? What do you think is really happening with the recovery efforts for Hurricane Helene? Weigh in on the comment section and join in on the coffee chat this morning. Before I go, it is worth noting that FEMA, for once, actually has a whole web page dedicated to rumors and debunking rumors that are circulating on social media in regards to Hurricane Helene cleanup efforts. If you're interested, I'll leave a link there in the comment section for anyone who wants to check it out for themselves. All right, friends, that's all for this morning's coffee chat. Once again, I'm Chan, your journalist and news anchor Betty. Stay caffeinated, stay curious.